Hidden Terres. In a land of rolling hills and bustling cities, there lived a man named Darnell. He was not born into power, but into peace. With his beloved wife Lyoreen, he raised 4 children: Savora, Tavian, Coriel, and little Mireia. Their home was filled with laughter, stories, and the simple joys of family life. But destiny had other plans. At the age of 45, Darnell was chosen to lead his country. Overnight, he became President. Darnell, his wife, Lyoreen, was 39, strong yet gentle, raising their 4 children with quiet devotion. Savora, the eldest daughter, was 18, just beginning her university studies. Tavian, the second child, was 15, thoughtful and shy. Coriel, the third, was 12, full of restless energy. And Mireia, the youngest, was only 9, tender and bright. At first, the family was proud. They believed his leadership would bring hope. The palace was filled with laughter, and the nation trusted him. But as the years passed, the weight of power grew heavy. Citizens who once cheered began to whisper in anger. Many citizens turned against him. Their hopes had been high. They expected prosperity, fairness, and a leader who would ease their burdens. Yet the cost of living rose beyond reach. Food and medicine became luxuries. Injustice spread through the courts, where the poor were silenced and the powerful walked free. Resources were unevenly shared. Some lived in abundance, while others struggled to survive. Families felt forgotten, children went hungry, and the streets whispered of betrayal. The people's anger wasn't born of hatred, but of disappointment. They longed for a leader who would see them, hear them, and heal their wounds. Songs of mockery filled the streets. Videos ridiculing him and his wife went viral. Social media became a weapon, and the children bore the scars. At school, fingers pointed. Whispers followed. Their once joyful life became unbearable. Inside the palace, the family felt the decay too. Lyoreen grew weary, her eyes shadowed by loneliness. Savora watched her father's sleepless nights, but also his distance. Tavian withdrew into silence. Coriel rebelled with anger, and Mireia's smile began to fade. The palace, once bright, became a house of hidden terrors. Every night, Darnell and Lyoreen argued. Their love strained under the weight of politics. Friends urged them to focus on the nation's projects, but the family was unraveling. Savora, now 25, tried to defend her father online. She spoke of his kindness, his sleepless nights for the nation, and the way he carried heavy burdens alone. Her university studies taught her about justice and inequality, so she understood the people's pain. Yet she also saw her father's humanity. But the comments were cruel. Many accused her of protecting injustice, of ignoring hunger in the streets. Still, Savora wrote again, "I know my father is not perfect, but I also know he is trying to choose love instead of power. Please, do not forget he is human." Her courage planted a small seed of hope among the youth. Meanwhile, Mireia, only 16 years old, carried her pain in silence. She did not write online, nor speak in public. She left a folded note on the table. "Dad and Mom, I feel like I'm fading away. I don't know why." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of despair. Days later, she collapsed in her room. The doctors discovered she had taken too many tablets. It was not a wish to vanish, but a cry of despair. By urgent care and grace, her life was saved. Tavian grew quieter still. He stopped joining his friends, spending long hours alone, staring at books he could not finish. His silence was heavy, like a wall around him. Coriel carried anger instead of silence. He argued with teachers, fought with classmates, and shouted at home. His rebellion was not against his family, but against the emptiness he felt inside. Two brothers, two wounds, one hidden in silence, the other burning in anger. One evening, Darnell returned from his state visit. He gathered his family. He looked at each face, Savora's courage, Tavian's silence, Coriel's anger, Mireya's fragile smile, and Lioran's weary eyes. He spoke softly. "I have worn the title of president for 7 years. But tonight, I lay it down. From this day forward, I preside not over a nation, but over my household. I have sacrificed my family for rituals and politics. No more. And so, let it be known, this story, my story, is not of power, but of surrender. Not of politics, but of love. The greatest leadership begins at home. I belong to my family, and my family belongs to me." Weeks had passed since the quiet gathering in the family home. The house, once heavy with silence, now breathed with warmth. Mireya's laughter returned in fragments. Savora's voice grew steadier. Tavian and Coriel walked slowly, but they walked together. And Lioran, though still weary, held her husband's hand with quiet strength. Then, one morning, the nation tuned into a broadcast unlike any other. The screen faded from black. No anthem, no flags. Just a simple room, a single chair. And Darnell no longer in presidential attire, but in a plain shirt. His wedding ring visible, his eyes clear. He looked into the camera and spoke. "To the people of this nation, come not as your president, but as a father who nearly lost everything. I have led armies, signed treaties, and stood before parliaments. But I failed to stand beside my own children when they needed me most. I have learned that leadership is not measured by applause or authority, but by presence, by listening, by love. Weeks ago, I laid down the title of president. I chose instead the sacred titles of husband and father. And today, I reaffirm that choice, not in private, but before you all. This story is not of power, but of surrender. Not of politics, but of love. The greatest leadership begins at home. I will no longer lead from a palace. I will lead from my porch, from my dinner table, from the quiet moments that build a life. I thank you for the years you gave me. I now give the rest of mine to those who gave me theirs, my family. Let me tell you again, and listen to me attentively. For 7 years, I have carried the title of president. I have signed laws, led councils, and walked the corridors of power. But today, I lay that title down. Not in defeat, but in devotion. I have learned that no constitution, no crown, no command is greater than the heartbeat of a home. I have sacrificed my family on the altar of duty. I have watched my children suffer, my wife weep, and my house tremble under the weight of public scorn. And so, I choose differently. From this day forward, I will not be called president. I will be called husband. I will be called father. These are the sacred titles I now embrace, not given by election, but by love. Let it be known, this story is not of power, but of surrender. Not of politics, but of love. The greatest leadership begins at home. I belong to my family, and my family belongs to me. I step away from the throne, and into the arms of those who matter most. May every leader remember, before you govern a nation, you must first govern your heart. He stood, bowed his head, and walked off screen. No applause, no music. Just silence, the kind that follows truth. From that day forward, Darnell lived in peace. He walked with his children, laughed with his neighbors, and grew old with Lioran. He died at 90, surrounded by love. His children built families of their own, cherished by their communities. Before you go, I invite you to share your thoughts below. What part of this story touched you most? Have you ever felt unseen in your own family? What helped you feel heard again? If you could write a note to your parents today, what would it say? What does it mean to choose love over power? What does love look like when power fades? What helps you stay strong when others misunderstand your story? If you were one of the children in this story, what would you want the world to know? What makes a parent a hero even without a crown or title?